can see what I'm doing on YouTube. Also, I'll share. So after the class, I'll share the link. So everything that we are doing will be.
Okay.
So which screen am I sharing like this? Okay. Oh, I'll share my screen again. I closed the screen I was sharing. Okay. So good evening. So can you hear me?
Good evening.
Good evening. So so this class is just supposed to put us through
Don't put them.
What's the name of software?
the basics
Microsoft.
of Microsoft SQL.
You won't copy them.
So let me just
Can't copy them now.
to you that Microsoft SQL SQL itself comes in different variants, and I'm not going to focus too much on this tool like this Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio that you can see on my screen. So Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio is just like a means of writing your SQL code. Like SQL. When you were installing your software, you installed two things. You installed SQL Server, and then you also installed Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. And so the reason why you installed Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio was to ensure that you'll be able to use the Microsoft SQL Server so that you can access what is inside. Okay, so that is the reason why you had to first of all you install the server before the Server Management Studio. And so I'm not going to dwell too much on what this is. So I won't expect questions on what is file, what is debug, what is tools. The reason is because the purpose of this class is not to teach how to use Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, but to learn the language of SQL. And so SQL is in different forms. From MySQL. Hello?
Where would you?
SQL can come from MySQL. SQL can come from Oracle. SQL can come from IBM. SQL can come from all kinds of sources. SQL can come from Apache. SQL can come from BigQuery. SQL can come from many places. In fact, SQL can come from Python. SQL can come from R. So that is why the focus will not really be on the interface here, but on the code itself. And so one thing that I explained in the last class, that was 2 weeks ago, was talking about databases. And so just follow what I'm doing. So I'm not going to spend so much time explaining, but I'll be as explicit as possible so that if you didn't get any part, you can go back to my YouTube link to just watch the part you might have missed. And so databases, so you cannot see all these things here, all these databases here. You cannot see all these databases here because, because those ones are the databases I have installed. So you cannot see it here. So what I will do is that I want us to install a database. Now, a database is more like a Microsoft Excel file. Just think about a database as a Microsoft Excel workbook that has different worksheets. And so the Microsoft Excel workbook, the big workbook, is the database, while the worksheets are the tables inside the database. And so I've decided not to really stress the class by bringing a database that you are not so familiar with. So what I decided to do is that I'm just going to use the database that is already available, and that's the Superstore Big Data version. So we can just try to query one or two things from it, just to see how things work on SQL. And so I've not even installed the database myself. So I'm going to try to do that. So So once I'm able to do that, you just follow the process of installing it. And if it doesn't work, that's not a problem. It doesn't hinder the class. I will just work with another database. Then I'll send you the database. I will show you how to install the database. So you can go back and practice it on your own by just following the steps while on the replay, maybe on YouTube. So you can watch it at your convenient time. So if you understand what I've been driving at, so this class is not going to be too information loaded because we have a very short time. All right, so back to what I'm doing. So we have this Superstore big data version. We have orders, returns, and people inside. So can you still see my screen? Okay. Okay, I believe you can still see my screen. All right.
Yes, you can see it.
So let's go to databases. So under this database, let's go to let me call it a new database. So I'll create a new database. Okay. I'll call the database. Okay. So I right clicked. Okay. I right clicked. Let me just start again. So I right clicked on databases. So I pressed new database. So I'll call the name of the database DLCF underscore bootcamp. Okay, so I've done that. So create database, no story. So once I create the database, what I just want to do right now is to get the table inside. So this is DLCF underscore bootcamp, as you can see. So the next thing I want to do is to open the database. So inside the database, we have tables, we have views, and all that. So what is a view? What is a table? What's the difference? It's not within the scope of this class. So that is advanced, whatever. So for now, we are going to focus on tables. And so now I don't have anything inside the table. As you can see, the table is empty, but we need a table inside. So what I will do is that there are different ways of creating a table. There are different ways of creating a table. So I'm going to create a table in two ways. Number one way, I will create the table by import. Number two way, I'll create a table by design. So we might not really be able to do so much of querying, but at least creation of a table should be able to at least give you something to get started with. So let's see how far we can go. So this class, I'm supposed to teach you guys, teach everyone here SQL, and then I touch on Power BI, and that's 45 minutes each. So we have a roughly like 30 minutes for this class to end. So let me right click on table. Let's say new table. New table, or let me say, okay, let me just right click on this one. Let me go to task. Okay, so I don't know which one should I take first. Should I do the table design before the import, or should I do the import before the design, or should I be free to just decide? How do you want us to go about it? So should I do the import before the design, or the design before the import? How do you want us to go about it? Anyone with a suggestion before I just decide with my sovereignty?
Import. Do import.
Import.
Yes.
Let us go with import. So the first person, import. So you can see here. So how would I get to import? Now, my SQL is not really exactly like yours. I'm using Microsoft SQL Management Studio 2014, but it's not is so the difference is just very minute, very minute. So in case you don't see your interface exactly like mine, it's just the same. It's just the same thing. Nothing has really changed. So put your mind at rest. Okay. Now I right click on the database. As you can see, the database is DLCF Bootcamp. So you are not going to see all this TSQL, SQL, this because this is my own personal. This is my own like system. Okay, this is my system, and these are the databases I've installed. So you cannot see it on your system because you don't have them installed. Okay, so I right click here, I go to task, I go to import data. So I've explained before that a database is just like a Microsoft Excel workbook, where the workbook is the big database and then the spreadsheets are the tables. So just to show you what I'm talking about. So this is the database we are working with. So I'm sharing another screen now. So this is Superstore Big Data. So this database, okay, is called Superstore Big Data, but because we have named it DLCF Bootcamp, so we assume that it is the database is called DLCF Bootcamp, and it has three tables. Number one table is orders, number two table is returns, and number three table is people. Okay, I take that again. So inside this, so this Excel workbook alone is the database. Number one is it has three tables. The first table is orders, the second table is returns, the third is people. Okay, the third is people. And so the next thing we will do now is to import. So let me go back to my SQL manager, themselves SSMS. Okay, you should know the meaning of SSMS now. So I right click, I go to tasks, I go to import data. So you might not really want to keep up with my speed because I expect you to still go back and watch the thing again, so you can just take it step by step. So I go to task, I go to import data. So from import data, so it will ask me some questions. So I want to just fix that ASAP. So SQL import and export wizard. Okay, so please, it's not the wizard thing, it's just computer language. So welcome to this next. Okay, so data source. Data source, so let it just load. So it will bring different data sources. Now, you can, I'll mention a terminology here. It's something that you might not be familiar with. Now, we have something we call flat file. In database language, things like CSV, text, Excel files, they are called flat files. Flat files. Why? Is because they are not really, they are flat. Like it's not a file that it's everything's kind of manual process. So if you are interested, you can go and do a Google search or whatever and read more about it. So it is a flat file source. So I click on flat file source. Next. So I press next. And so I expect another window to come up. So I'm using a flat file source. So that is my data source.
Doty, I can't see what you are doing again. No? The current page you are.
Okay. You know what will happen is that I will share my whole entire screen and then I'll start again. I think it's because it is a screen I'm sharing, so it didn't capture that screen I'm talking about. So
Okay.
So I'll share my entire screen now, so you can just get the idea of what I'm talking about. Now I'm sharing my entire screen. Okay, can you see what I'm talking about? So can you see my icons right now? Can you see my icons?
Yes, I can see the SQL workspace. That's what I can see.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. My network is having some issues. Okay, my audio is bad, so I'm speaking from my phone and I'm projecting again. I'll share my screen again. Okay, so and then I'm using, and the Wi-Fi connection here is not so strong. Okay, so is this fine now? Can you see my screen now?
I can.
Okay, so now let's go. So what I'm saying is that I want to import from Excel CSV text is called a flat file. I explained that already. I right click on the database, I go to task, then I go to import data. I think my internet connection is unstable. I might need to just switch my internet if it's possible. So if you cannot see, if my screen breaks for any reason, just let me know so I can have internet first. So let's go ahead. So next, so I said my data source is a flat file. So can you see me choosing flat file now? Flat file.
Yes.
Next. So is a flat file source. So a valid name must be selected. So I go to browse. So well, it's my so I know where the data is stored. That is the personal okay, all files. So let me pick this one. Um, okay, so I pick the Excel there. Okay, let me just go back. Let me start again. Okay. You know what? The good thing is that there's an Excel add-in there, so you don't need a flat file source. Excel is a flat file, I believe, but you have Microsoft Excel here already, so just go straight to Microsoft Excel import. Or if you are importing a
No, no,
CSV,
no.
you can use it. You can use that of a flat file.
I'm
So I'm
following
picking
with you.
Excel. Okay. So now it's asking for Excel file path. Now I'm browsing to select it. So I'm picking SuperScore Big Data version, which is the name of that Excel file. Okay. I believe you must be familiar with that file already. So first name at column name. So is that true or false? That is true because this is the first row and it has the names of the column. So that is true.
Yes.
So I can go back here, I import, and then I click on next. Okay. And then where will I copy the data to? I'm copying the data to an SQL service. So I'll pick Microsoft OLE DB provider for SQL Server. So you can research more on that if you are interested. So Microsoft OLE DB provider for SQL Server, I picked that. Now I'm using my Windows authentication. The database is DLCF Bootcamp. Yes, that's very true. Next, okay. Now, so copy data from one or more tables of views. That's true. Next. So let's do like this. Let me copy for orders and copy returns. Now, this is the reason. I want us to create this table database, this table ourselves. Do you understand me? Because the data here is very small. I want you to see how I can even create a table myself in a database instead of importing. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even the table, so I want us to create this table ourselves. That's why I left out this table from the database import. So I pick orders and I pick returns. So let us rename it. I'm removing the dollar sign at the back. Okay, I'm removing this dollar sign at the back. Okay. So I can press the next immediately. Yes, finish. So can you see? Can you see what's going on? So what did it say? Success, and all that. So it has copied those things from Excel to where? Microsoft SQL. So now, can you see how the table looks like? Here, I'll show you the table right now in SQL. So this is table in Excel. You know, I'm trying to bring in Excel and SQL because you've done Excel already in class, and so that you can really appreciate why we are using SSMS Studio, so you can have a graphical feel of what I'm doing. So this is the returns. So I go back here to this place. So whenever you do something like on the database, whether you create a table, whether you edit a table, whether you rename a table and all that, the first thing you should do is to refresh your database. So how to refresh it, I right click on this database. So the name of our database is DLCF underscore bootcamp. I right click on it and I press refresh. So as I press refresh and I go to tables, I will see these tables there. So can you see our tables now? Can you see the tables there? DBO orders, DBO returns. So the meaning of DBO is called, so this DBO is called a schema. You can write that down and research on that. What is a schema? What is a table? I didn't talk about schemas because it's beyond the scope of this class. So DBO in front of orders is a schema, but the table name is orders, and the table name of this one is returns. So on SQL Server Management Studio, if you want to view a table from a database, I've not talked about the coding part. I'm still doing the preparation part, but just because this is SSMS, if you want to see what is inside the table, you go to your tables. So for those who are just joining, I said I'm streaming this meeting live on YouTube. So I will drop the link after the class so you can go back and watch it at your own convenience. Okay, so I right click on DBO orders, and then I select the top 1000 rows just to view it. Okay, now I select the top 1000 rows, and so come and watch it, just watch it load the top 1000 rows. Now, so does it look like what you are familiar with already? Can we compare? So so this is what is in Excel, and this is SQL. So can you see that our import was successful? Can you see it was successful? Hello, can you see that it was successful? So
Yes, it is.
so this is one, this is just one. So I'm just trying to get the data inside before we even start coding, because see, SQL cannot work without data because it's a data querying. When you query, it's like, I don't know something, so I need to find out the information. So you cannot query an empty database. That's why we have to bring the data inside, because there's no point writing SQL code when there's nothing to call out. You understand? So whatever code we are writing in SQL, we are trying to call out something. And how can we call out what does not exist in the first place? So all this thing is just our own form of data preparation. All right. So I move ahead. So I've shown you the first way of getting data inside, which is the data import. Now the second way of getting data inside is more like a manual process, which is more like creating the table afresh. And after you've created the table, then you bring in the data manually. So let's go about that. So to create a new table in SSMS, like to create a new table in a database, or more like you create a spreadsheet in Excel and you do all your typing. So I want you to view it. So as I'm talking in SQL, I want you to start joining those two knowledge foundations that you've had. The one on the graphical knowledge of Excel and the kind of abstract knowledge of SQL, and kind of give it a visual sense of appeal. Now, so you have these tables here. So you can right click here. Okay, you can right click. Okay, you can right click here on this and go to new table. Okay, can you see? Click on new table. Table. Now, in a new table, can you see what I did? So let me start all over again. Close. So to create a new table. Okay, sorry, I might mute someone talking now. I think I can mute the person from here. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. So a table. So to create a table, I right click on tables. I go to new table. Now look at this spreadsheet. Can you just tell me quickly, just so that we won't waste so much time here? What are the columns here? Can you identify the columns here?
Yes, person and region.
Person and region. Thank you very much. So what kind of data is in person and region? Is it numerical data? Is it text data? Is it true or false data? What kind of data is there?
Text.
Text. Now, I want you to understand that data type is a very important thing. So there are two things I want you to write down or take notes. Number one thing that is very important in SQL is when you're creating a table, data type, number one. Number two, data length. Data type and data length, it's very important. So maybe it's a text or numerical float. So you might want to go and also read, we can't really treat everything. I'm going to send a textbook, like I said, but it makes more sense now that at least you've seen it. So it's not going to be abstract when you are reading some things there. So you can try to read it and see and fill in the gaps. Okay, so this is person and region, and they both contain text. And so the data type for text in SQL, please just Google it online. I'm not sure it's the right place to ask. It's called NVACA. NVACA. So the table name is people. The first table is people, and then the data type is NVACA. NVACA. So let's say the maximum, I don't expect the name of a person to be longer than 25. So this 25 inside is the maximum length. And I want to allow null values. I want to allow null values inside. I want to allow null value. Null value means that if I enter an empty value into that table, it's not going to throw out the data. But if I do not allow null values, if I enter a null value, it will not accept it in the database. So it's like a constraint. You can learn more about that. And then I have another one called region. So if I do not allow null value, if I enter a null value, if I leave that place empty, when I'm filling it will throw it out. And this is region. Okay, this is region. The region is also a text. And so if I call this thing a text, okay, and I enter a number inside, it can still accommodate it. But if I call this thing a number and I try to enter a text inside, it will throw it outside. It will throw it out. It won't accept it. So please use the correct data type whenever you are creating a table in SQL. So region, the same thing. Let me call it 25, allow nulls. And so once I'm done, I press Ctrl S for save, as you already know. And so the other advanced table formatting, I would leave that out. It is more than the scope of this class. Ctrl S. So what is the name of the table from Excel is called people. So I call the table here also people. Okay. So, and that is saved. So I mentioned something earlier that whenever you do something like you create a new table and all that, you refresh. So you might not need to refresh the database. It depends on the level that you have done a change. So the change that we made was in the table. So I just need to refresh the tables. And I should see there. So I have 3 tables now, just like my database here. So others return people. Others returns and people. And so just to be sure that we have something inside, others, I've shown you that others, we've imported something into others. So what I did was I right clicked and I pressed select top 1000 rows. For returns, right click and select top 1000 rows, okay, which is there. And then for people, so you can see the others there. So you can always go back to check what you have done. So you can see here, I have all these things here, tables and all that. And then for here, for people, let me right click. Now, can you observe something? People did not return anything, true or false? It is empty. It cannot return anything. Do you know why? Because there is nothing inside the table. All we just did was to create a table. You've not put any data inside. So you cannot expect it to return anything when you have not put any data inside. So we have to put data inside this table. So to put a data inside, all I need to do is to right click, okay, to right click. So inside the table, let me just quickly show you some things. We have columns. Column is just like the name of the column, people and region. We have keys. You learn more about keys, constraints, triggers, indexes. These are advanced things that are beyond the scope of this class, but you can go more into that if you want to go deeper. But for now, I want to add data into this table manually. So I right click, and then the next thing you do is you go to edit top 200 rows. So there are many ways to input data. You can input the data programmatically, but that is beyond the scope of this class. So the one that we will do now is just the manual way of inputting the data. And so that is just to right click and go to edit top 200 rows. So I click edit top 200 rows. So because we don't really have so much time to spend and we don't waste time, I just do copy and paste. So I copy everything here from 2 to 5. I copy from Anna, Andrea, whatever name is that, and Cassandra, whatever. I press Control C, copy, and then I highlight here, then I paste. So can you see it's inside right now? Now, the reason why it did not throw it out is because we have already set the length. Assuming I set the length of that table to be n varchar like 5, all these things will be truncated. Truncated means it will be cut. So it is just going to pick only the part that can fit in. So that's why whenever you're creating your table, you need to be able to think that what is the maximum kind of length that would fit. Now, somebody will say that, why can't I just use like 1 million at least? Nothing will reach 1 million. Now, the danger in that is that you can run out of space. So you need to be able to plan your database management, how you really want to design your table and all that. So you can read more of that from literature, which I would send. Okay. So now let's do what we tried to do before. Check what is inside this table. So let me right click on this, select top 1000 rows. Now the data we just entered is now showing, and so that has brought us to the part of now we have created a database called DLCF Bootcamp. We have created 3 tables. The first 2 tables, which is called orders and returns, we created that through import, and that was import from Microsoft Excel file, which the GC provided for me. So I believe if you don't already have it, it would help us provide it. So we have rows, order ID, and all this. So I imported this and this into SSMS. Okay, SSMS is just a medium to read what is inside the SQL server. It's just like a it's just like a reading environment. It's not where this is not the database. The database is SQL server, so you can read more on that. So that's why. So if you observe, if you have installed these things, you see that you installed 2 things. You installed SQL server and installed SSMS. So SQL server is where the data is actually stored, while SSMS is the medium of interaction. And so all these things of select these, all these commands, select this from this and all that is just commands that we are sending to the database to fetch data from it. So that is something about SQL. And so I think this is a convenient point to stop, so that from the next class, I just want to talk about what does it mean to select. So because we can do so many things from this database, what does it mean to select? Why do we select here? You can see this is top. What does it mean top? From what's the arrangement? How do you arrange it? So that in case you have a data in mind, and then we might also work on a bigger database so that you can just see some things that you could do and just answer some questions. Okay, do this, and then we see how we can combine some SQL, bring it out. So before we wrap up SQL and move to some fundamentals in Power BI, do we have any questions?
There's no question from. There's no question.
Okay, great. So if there's no question, so why you are just trying to see some 1 or 2 things, maybe you want to just try 1 or 2 things. Let me just open my Power BI software. Let me move my Power BI software.
Sorry.
You said what?
Sorry. No, it was a mistake. I was asking a question.
Okay, so I hope we have Power BI installed already. GC, sir. I said I hope our people have Power BI installed, sir. So I'm not speaking into the air.
We have it installed.
Oh, great. So I'm loading my Power BI right now. So It might take just a little while to load. So do you care for some music? Alright. Uh, just to so why you are just trying to see one or two things. Maybe you want to just try one or two things. Let me just
Nothing
open my
impossible.
Power BI software.
Nothing impossible.
Let me open my Power BI software.
What can't you
What
do?
Huh?
What won't you do?
Sorry.
Nothing impossible
Sorry.
with
No,
our
it's a mistake. I will not make
God.
Okay, so I
You
hope you
do
have Power BI
not lie,
installed.
you do not fail. What is hard for you to do? It doesn't
This is
exist.
I said I hope
It's
our people
can
have
never
Power
ever
BI installed.
exist.
So
You do not lie, you do not fail. What is hard for you
we have it
to
installed.
do? It doesn't exist.
So
It can never
I'm
ever
loading my
exist.
Power BI.
According to your knowledge and your will for me, what you say you have done, I just need to align, no. Because you are not a man that changes your mind, oh. Those that know you will trust in you, not in her.
Okay, so I've opened my Power BI right now. Okay. So do we have Power BI opened already? Hello, do we have Power BI open already? So maybe you can just catch up later on that. So because of our time, we have roughly 45 minutes for this class 2. So we have to run at the speed of light. So what I will do before on Power BI right now. So why you are just trying to see one or two things.
Season chariot, nothing
impossible.
impossible. Nothing impossible.
Let me open my Power BI software.
What can't you
What
do? What won't you do?
Sorry.
Nothing impossible
Sorry.
with our
it's a
God.
Okay. Hello. Can you still okay? I think I have to get this closed. All right. So what I will do right now is that I will explain the interface of Power BI. So I would advise Power BI. Now, there's something about Power BI you need to know. Power BI is a BI tool. Okay, BI means business intelligence. So Power BI is just Power Business Intelligence. So BI means business intelligence. Okay, I hope I'm still communicating. I'm just trying to give you some tip bits before I move ahead. Now, Power BI is just one of the tools used for business intelligence. Number one most simple tool that is used for business intelligence and the most common is actually Microsoft Excel. And so I would advise before you go deep into Power BI, at least be comfortable in Microsoft Excel. And so we are not teaching you, or let me say, I am not teaching you Power BI as a replacement for Microsoft Excel. Neither am I teaching you Power BI as an alternative for Tableau, because it all depends on the company. You understand me? These BI tools are very expensive. For instance, Power BI subscription is about $10 per month for the normal user license. It's about $10 per month. And so it is what your company can afford. Do you understand me? That they will purchase, and companies don't use cracked softwares. It's not like what we do. Companies don't use cracked software. It's what your company can afford that they'll purchase. And so it's not like it's not about Tableau is better than Power BI, Power BI is better than Excel. It's just about this is a BI tool and this is what we have decided to stick with. And so it's our advice that you learn Excel, you are grounded because Excel is quite popular and that's what many people might really be able to afford. Okay, I'm just giving you a business advice, and if you and I advise you take it. Okay, and then Power BI is also very common because among the other BI tools is like the cheapest. Tableau is very expensive, so you find it with very high-end clients, but it's very useful. So we have different BI tools. We have Power BI, we have Tableau, we have MicroStrategy, okay, we have ClickView, and other, and even now the Python are coming up as as good alternatives for some of these Power BI and all those other things. And I also mentioned that Microsoft Excel is a very standard BI tool. Anyway, that's just information that is just extra. So Power BI. Now this is your Power BI interface. Now this is Power BI interface. So there are just some things that you might need to know on the interface of Power BI before we even start doing anything. So I'll just quickly run through that. So now we have home, we have insert. I hope you can still see my screen. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. Okay, we have home, we have insert, we have modeling, we have view, we have help, we have external tools. Okay, external tools. I'm not sure you might see external tools on yours because I have some other add-ins I use here. So if you don't see external tools, that's fine. It's not really the main part. Okay, view it later. Now, okay, so under home, okay, let me still talk about what is under this place. And then you have this part, which is visualization. So on this place, what you really see here is your visualization. On this place, okay, so all these other ones, I will leave it for when I load a data inside here. So you might not really be able to switch from place to place because there's no data inside. And so I have home, I have under home, I have get data. Of course, I have to bring in the data from inside, and Power BI also allows you to put your data in there yourself. And then Power BI is so versatile that you can bring in data from different sources. You can bring in data from Excel, you can bring in data from SQL, you can bring in data from so many different data sources. And so as an analyst or a developer, even apart from knowing the tools, you should also avail yourself to know about the different data sources and how you can really interact with them. So I'm not going to go into that. And then you also have insert. So insert, some of those things are much more advanced, modeling, view, and all that. So I won't dive into that. And now you have different visualizations. Now, these types of visualization, it's not really the scope of this class because it's domain knowledge. Okay, it's domain knowledge that will really tell you when to use a bar chart and when to use an histogram or when to use a pie chart. You know, it's not really a technical detail. You don't need to do Power BI to know all those things. So it's not really something I want to dwell on in this class because it's domain knowledge. However, just for your information, if you put your mouse on those icons on visualization, you should see the name of the visualization there. And so you can really read up online on what okay, you can read up online on what these things mean, but for this class, I might just pick one or two of them and we'll use it for our example. So I have a stack bar chart, stack column chart, pie chart, and all that there. And so without wasting much time, the next thing I want to do now is to import the data. And so to import the data, what I do is get data. So the name is quite intuitive. Get the data. Import the data, get the data. Okay, so what I do here is I get the data. So I pick get data. So, but I don't know your kind of Power BI version, okay, but I'm not using the latest version. Power BI is actually updated every month, but you don't need to update it every month if you are not really working in the industry. But it's normally updated every month. Every month. So this
Your screen is
my screen is what?
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I see your screen is no longer being shared.
Okay. I
I
think
think what
that must be a
time has
network.
happened again.
That must be a network challenge.
Okay. It's okay now.
Okay. All right, fine. So what was the last thing you saw on my screen before it stopped sharing? What was the last thing? So maybe I can just rewind a bit. Hello? Or should I just continue? So if you need to take me back, you just let me know. What about that?
You can proceed.
Okay, fine. So all right, so I have the different data sources. I have the different data sources here. So what I need to do first of all is to import data. So I click on get data. So I didn't want to use the shortcut here. So there are some shortcuts to get some specific kind of data because those ones are the common data that people get. But just to show you how it really works out, you can see the different kinds of data, Excel, text, XML, and all that. So you can find out what those different data types mean. However, my business here today is Excel. Okay, you can see there are so many kinds of data sources, so many, so many, and they keep growing and growing and growing. However, our business here is Excel, and so you can see, so you can see right now that why Excel is not only really for all this your if statement and all that. In another sense, Excel can actually serve as a temporary database in business intelligence, but it's not so efficient because of the limitation of the 1 million rules. So, but at least you can still use Excel for a temporary data source. So I click on Excel Workbook Connect. So the next thing it's to do is to ask me to look for the Excel workbook. So since this is my system, I know where I kept the file. So you can also really do that as it affects you. So I pick the same data so that we'll just really be on the same track. The same Superstore big data version is what I will use. So we know we are using the same data throughout. So I click on that. Okay, so so it's connecting to it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, so let it connect. So it's loading. Okay, I think we are running out of time. Okay, now so it's going to load it. It's loading now. As you can see here, what can you see? It's going to bring out the different tables. So I have orders, I have people, I have returns. Now we are going to bring in the 3 tables all together. So for you to bring all the tables that you need, you just need to check it. So I need orders, or you know what? Let us bring it in one by one. Okay. I would. There's a reason why, because I might want to. I want to show you that there are some other things you can do on a table. So I don't want to bring them all together. So let me bring it in one by one. And so there is something you call, so I will load people. Okay, let's do it like this. I will load people alone. I'll just load people, and then for the orders and return, I will transform the data. You know, there is something in Power BI which we might want to do in the next class. Yes, sir.
Please, can you just say a step or 2 step back, please?
Okay. Let me just
When you imported the data. Yes, please.
Okay, let me take a giant step back, but not something too far away. So let me take that again. So I go back. Now I go to get data. Okay. Now I need an Excel data because that is my database for this exercise. Now Excel workbook, I click on it. So I'm using this Superstore big data version. So wherever you put it on your system, you figure that out. So I pick that. Okay, pick that. So next week, we are going to focus on something we call the data kitchen. The data kitchen. It's called Power Query or Microsoft or whatever. It's called Power Query. Okay, it's called the data kitchen. There is no way you can be a business analyst without understanding um, how to really query your data. Query your data, not just query your data. There's no way you can be a business analyst without understanding how to query your data and how to transform your data. And so it's not something that we can really take as part of a class. It's something that we might need to just, focus on quite separately. So it's called the data kitchen. But for today, we'll just look at Power BI as an overview and just see how you can drag and drop visualizations, and maybe subsequent classes, if time permits, you might just want to go deeper into some things peculiar. Okay, so let me go back. So I said I'm going to import people normally, and then the other ones that we import them using transform data, just to show you how the data kitchen looks like, or Power Query. So these people, I go to load, straight up, I load. So you can see that, so it is loading it, load. And so once it's done, it will create the connection. And so in this field here, so you can see that something is coming out on this side of my screen. If you can see my mouse, you can see it's fields. So once it has come inside, you will see it here. So you can see people. So people has loaded, okay? So now we have two tables left to be loaded, and that is orders and return. Orders and return. And so there is no one way to, let me also add this. There is no one way to draw your visualization. It depends on what you want to see. So it's not like, so that you are not going to come to this class with like a closed mind and like, okay, this is how we do the graph. This is how the graph must be. It must be a pie chart, it must be whatever. If you take that mindset out, you're on your own. It's really what you want to see that will determine how you approach the visualization. So that's an information you should take note of. So the next thing is that I want to bring in the order data. So I use the same process. I go to get data. Okay. Okay, now this is another thing. Now look at the shortcut. Now I have brought in people. So instead of going to get data, what I do is I go to recent data sources. So if you look at this, my icon, instead of me going through the process of getting data again, I press recent data sources. So if you see the recent data sources, I have brought in Superstore big data version. Okay. And so I will click on this. So once I bring in this one, I just show you one or two things. Then I can just show you like some things I've done on Power BI before, which, so the data and manipulation of this, we are not going to do it in this class today because of time. Oh, no, I don't need you now. So I click on this. So I'll try to show you if I can see what I've done on Power BI before. Some of just the little things that you can do on Power BI. Okay. Okay. And so the next thing is we want to talk about bringing orders. So what I would do, so I've clicked on it, orders. So I go to transform data. So the transform data will now take me to the data kitchen. So this Power Query editor is something that is like a nitty-gritty of BI, like this data transformation. Okay, is just BI. BI can come from different sources. In fact, there's something they call SSIS. You can go and read more on that. It's called SQL Server Integration Services. There's something they call SSAS, SQL Server Analytical Services. There's something they call SSRS, SQL Server reporting services. There are different ways people approach business intelligence. And so what I'm saying that Power BI is just one of the many ways that you can approach business intelligence. But the main thing is just that you are trying to help the business through description of data. That's just the point you are trying to make. So how you go about it is now what differs. So you can see this is a data kitchen. Okay, so what this means, transform, is not really the business for today. So the business for today is just to close and apply. So that's the data kitchen. Okay. So I've not even generated some questions, so maybe the GC can help with that. So maybe it can help us generate some questions, that we might want to answer using the data. Probably you've generated some questions already on Tableau. Okay. So we'll try to replicate what you've done already on Tableau, try to replicate it on Power BI. Okay. See, and try to have a much more rounded knowledge using a single data set. And so finally, I bring in returns. So I won't go through the data kitchen, I just bring it in just like that. Okay, so we have about, okay, we still have time. It's 7 to 7:30 now. I mean 8:30. So I have about less than 30 minutes. And I still want to leave space for questions. So we'll be rounding up soon. So returns, I just load it. So it's bringing it in. Returns, so it's bringing it in. So you can see I have orders, people, returns. So I have 3 tables inside this. Okay, I have 3 tables. So please don't forget to save your file. Okay, don't forget to save your file. So save it with whatever name, so you are not going to lose your progress. But that's not so important now. It's not really technical information. So data, so you can see this one is, so whenever you have, so these 3 buttons here, this is the reason why you have it. So this is for your visualization page. This is where you see all your visualizations. Okay, this place. So this next one is where you might want to see your table. You might want to just see how does the table look like, more like a snapshot of the table. So it gives you something closest to what you might see when you query on Microsoft SQL Server or on an Excel spreadsheet. So that is this table part. So please, I can see somebody is coming in, going out. It's like you have network challenges. So you might want to just check out the part you missed, maybe when I share the YouTube link. Okay, so the table part, you can see here. So I said this place, you talk about the visualizations. This place is just like a snapshot of how the table looks like. So you can just click on from the table one by one to see how it looks like. So this is how the order looks like. These are the people looks like. Now, do you observe something here? What can you observe? Can you observe that only orders was correctly imported? Can you observe that row, order ID, order date, ship date are the right column names? But look at people. It is assuming that person and region is part of the data. Can you see this? Now, that is the reason why we normally have to do data transformation to correct some anomalies, because this is is an anomaly. Person and region is actually the name of the column, is not part of the data. So we need to transform this data to convert this first row into the column names. So we need to fix that. Another thing that we need to do in this data is in this place. So in these returns, what is on Excel? What is on Excel? Let me just go to Excel and open it again, because I need to really understand how it looks like. So let's just go and compare in Excel. So just to have a balanced view. So if you remember what I did on SQL, you'll see that under orders, we have all the columns there. We have all the columns there under orders. The same one is inside Power BI. Under people, we have the two columns, people and region, but on Power BI is not yet seeing it as a column. Under returns, we have returned and order ID, which is supposed to be column name. However, look at what is showing here. It's not showing it as we want it to be. So this is the reason why data transformation is very important, which is that part I called Power Query Editor or the data kitchen or whatever you want to call it. So that is what we'll focus on next class. That's it, this part. And then maybe beyond next class, there's one part that you cannot take away from BI, and that is data modeling. So those things that you do on VLOOKUP, so this is a view of the data where you can actually associate relationships, okay? So that data modeling and relationship, there's also a version of it. There's a way you can apply it on SQL, which if time permits, you will also see how that works. And so those things that you call VLOOKUP on Excel is actually possible somehow on Power BI, but it's in a more automated format. All you just need to do is just to connect the column by dragging something from here to here. You can say this one is equivalent to this, and it's as good as saying you have done a VLOOKUP. And so these are some of the things that BI helps to automate and simplify, because Excel is kind of a manual process. So BI kind of automates some things, it simplifies some things. So the reason why I deleted it is because it's not yet clear if there's a relationship, but you are going to see how data modeling works. So the visualization, data view, snapshots, data modeling, data transformation, all these things are separate knowledge that you need to understand for you to be efficient in the use of Power BI. So it's not just all about knowing how to drag and drop visualization, because garbage in is garbage out. If you have a bad data inside which is not well transformed or well modeled, you're going to have a very terrible visualization. And so I don't want you to be too excited about seeing graph, bar chart, pie chart without really, putting your data right. And so the truth is that nobody in the real world will give you a data that is so as clean as this. Most likely your data will not be as clean as this. It will come in with a number of imperfections. And that's why data transformation is something that is taken with a whole lot of seriousness for business analysts, business developers, business intelligence developers. And that's something that we might want to just look at more critically in our class. So I think we've talked about the visualization part, this part, and this part. So I'm not going to do any visualization because it's not part of what I intend to do in this class. It's just an introduction to Power BI. So what I want to just show you is some things that I've done on Power BI before, which is a bit, let me look for something quite simplified. So let me pick this one. So this data here, you can see this file I'm about to open was the analysis of a survey data of from people's responses. Is a survey data of some student responses, about an event. It's something that is not Nigerian based, okay? It's not like a Nigerian data. So you might see some things that might not be too familiar. So don't focus on the data, just focus on the concepts. So let me just open it and I'll just quickly just take you through how some things can come out in Power BI. Okay. So it's opening. So okay, so you can see, so in Power BI, you can actually have different pages of visualization. So it was a quite laborious visualization. So you can see here. So you can see in Power BI from the data, I was able to create a map of US. This is the map of US. And you can see that based on the based on the amount of things in the data, it gave it a color. So the reason why this one is very green is because there's a lot, there's the value of this one is higher than this. So that's why this one is deep green. And then the reason why this one is light green is because there's little thing inside. And so this is something you can do on Power BI. You can also do it on Tableau. So this is something that BI gives you. It gives you a kind of interactive feel of your data, descriptive. So this is something there. So look at the data model, how it looks like. So you can see you can see how it is connected. Technical skills raised, pressing. So this is what data modeling gives us. It helps you have a reasonable data. So the reason why this thing is looking all nice at this front end is just because I've done a quite decent job on the data model at the back end. So that's why it's looking all decent. It's not like it just came out of the blues and everything is looking so nice and good. No. So the data came in a kind of way and then it had to be transformed. Anyway, we are not going too deep into all this data modeling and all that. It's beyond the scope of this class. It's just an introduction. So we are not going to do something as technical as this. However, just for you to just appreciate what we can do on Power BI. Okay, so this is page. So we also, based on the different section of the analysis, I had to just create some different pages. So let me collapse this. So to collapse, I just click on this and I click on this. So I'm collapsing. So this is the map of US. So based on the data, so if you see Power BI, if I see visualization, so what is this actually inside here is a map. It's a map visualization, a shape map, where the location is state, and then the data is talking about the count of all these things. And so if you've done anything like pivot table and pivot charts, some of those things too, you can do it on Power BI in a kind of way. So all those things, they are actually similar things you can do on different BI tools. It's just that one we call it, this is the name I call my own, this is the name I call my own, this is the name I call my own. So it's all similar. And so this is another page. You see, this is a page, this is another information, this is another information. So the reason why it was
Sir? Please, this is a sample of what you have worked on before now, right? It's not the
it's not like, no, it's not. That's not. I'm just trying to show you like what Power BI can do, not what our data will look like. This is not Superstore data. I don't know. So what I mentioned was that maybe the GC will help us to generate like some questions that we might want to use the data to answer, or if we might want to discuss it, which is fine. Just some questions that we want to discuss on data. I said that there's really nothing like your visualization is really based on what you really want to see. There's no standard visualization. It's just so the reason why this visualization is like this is because these are the questions that we intended to answer with the data, not like I have to do the map, but it was necessary to answer a particular question. Do you understand, sir?
Okay, please, can you help us with a sample of how a database will be and what is intended to be answered with the database? The question I answered, please.
Okay, the question, and okay, like examples, like maybe like I can say that, okay, we want to know what is the distribution of students? Like, look at this question is asking that, what is the distribution of the respondents according to their geographical location? That is a question. And so to answer that question, we did a map visualization to show that, okay, the people that responded, most of them came from this state. This state is called Arkansas. And then most of them are from Arkansas, and some other of them are from some other states in US. Okay, so that's just the answer to the question. So it's just like based on the question that was asked with the data is what now determined that this is a visualization we can use. And then there are three kinds of people that came. Some some of the people that responded are from US, some are from outside US, and some are online audience. And so this is giving us that most of them are US, which is the pie chart. So it's just giving us that information. So from a glance, I can quickly tell that okay, Arkansas this point here. This is Arkansas has the most number of people that filled that questionnaire. And from a glance, I can quickly tell that okay, most of the people that fill the questionnaire are from US. So it's just those are the things I mean by questions. So it's just based on what are the questions, and that is what is common to business intelligence. You don't go into a data analytics project without really having a question in mind. So you're not going to play with the data. You actually have a question in mind that you intend to answer using the data. So that's exactly what we are doing here. So this is just like an example. Okay, this is just an example. Just an example. This is an example. This is an example. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think that's for that. So unfortunately, I will not be able to share the file. It's confidential, so I won't be able to share it. But just for visualization purpose. And so, so by the time we come back next week, we want to look at data transformation. So these abnormalities in this data, why this one is supposed to be a column and it is part of the data, we'll fix it. And why this returns is not showing the column name, we'll have to fix it. So that's some part of data transformation, which we would try to fix in the next class. Okay, so at this point,
please, one more question, please.
Yes.
Okay. At which point will I know that my data has been well transformed for visualization? Like,
Well,
that.
now
you
you
my question.
okay.
My
I
data is
understand the question. Now, what I need to
free
tell you
of
is that
allowance.
this is a kind of a compressed teaching. Okay, if we actually want to take this thing very, very detailed, we might actually have to go through like the stages of business intelligence. Now you start from data collection, and then there's something they call, you can write that down, ETL, extraction. Like in business intelligence, we have three main processes. They call it ETL. You call it extraction, transformation, and loading. Now, extraction is what we have done by bringing in the data here, or even on the SQL, we brought in data. Now, transformation is supposed to be the next stage. And then the final stage of viewing the data, which I've shown, is the loading part. Now, the transformation and the loading is an iterative process. You can always go back to your transformation, because I can be doing my data and I find out that there's something I need to do and I'm not able to do it. And the reason is because the data is not showing in a particular way. So until you get what you need from the data, your transformation is not okay. So you keep transforming as much as is required. So I can't really tell you that this is when transformation is okay, because it depends on what you need to do with the data. So, but once you can get what you need from the data, then it means the data is well transformed, is transformed enough for what you need it for. So there's no perfect transformation. Is what is adequate transformation is the right word. Okay, so I think does that answer your question, sir? Okay, I can't hear him again.
Yeah. That answers the question.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so that brings us to the end of this class. So we have like 5 minutes more, and I think I've covered everything I need to cover. So so in the absence, so is there any other question before I just stop the live recording? So the question and the answer is still part of the live recording.
Please, one more question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If my data is not well transformed, will will it have effect? Will it be visible on the visualization?
Well, the truth is that if your data is not well transformed, it depends. It's the thing is that you cannot even have a visualization without the right transformation, because like you're saying, because the thing is that you can always, let me tell you something. If I tell you that, if I tell you something now, in let me say, like, in chemistry now, I tell you that the pH, I don't know if you have science students here, I tell you that the pH of something is 0.3. It's only somebody in chemistry that will make sense to that. Okay, this is something acidic. So it really depends on how if it really affect. Like, it's really based on what you need to do with the data. So if it doesn't really answer the question that you have in mind, then it has already affected it. It's not suitable enough. It's not solving any problem. What is the essence of BI, Power Business Intelligence? The essence is to solve business problem by describing your data. Finish. And so if you are not solving the problem, so I mean, it's definitely has affected all that you need to do. So it's as important. So data transformation. So if I will give data transformation, if I give you the amount of time spent in a project, number one is, I will say, understanding the data and understanding the business problem. I'll give that on my own side. I'll give that like 50%. Understanding the problem, transforming data, I'll give that 30%. And then not visualization, I'll give that 20%. I'm talking about amount of time that we really spend in fix these things, to show that understand the problem. So if you have understood the problem, it will be very hard for you to miss out in your transformation. So that's why it's called business. You have to really, if you are not, it's not really as technical as you think. You need to also talk to the client, because sometimes transformation will be necessary to do it. So it depends on what the client needs, that will determine how you approach your transformation. So there's no right or wrong answer in this thing. Actually, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what will solve the problem.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. So thank you very much. I'll stop the live stream now. So you can just, okay. So I'll stop the live. Okay, let me copy the streaming link. Before I stop the live stream. So if you visit this link, so you can copy this link and paste it on the WhatsApp group. If you visit this link, you can actually rewatch everything that we've said in this class so far. So if you visit the link I put in the chat, you can actually rewatch everything that we've said so far in the class. So that's the live streaming link. Because I want to stop this. I want to stop the streaming, and if I stop it, I'm able to fetch that link again. So I'll stop the link now, the streaming link now. So if you have further questions, you can ask after. If you have further questions, if you can reach me directly through the group chat, you can ask. You can comment under that video. So, and then I can address it inside that place. I don't know, whatever is convenient, but you can just get